Hello and welcome to Simudan, and welcome to what promises to be quite a short video on lawn mowing simulator, because there just isn't enough simulators out there and they needed to simulate something as mundane as mowing your lawn. So this is all captured from Xbox Game Cloud using the Xbox Series X to stream it, and I'm just going to talk through why it is this game just doesn't click with me. I've tried it once before, I've tried it again this time round, and even through playing the game this time round, it still hasn't quite clicked with me. It's still not quite got my attention. I established when I started playing this that I was going to play and I was going to keep going until I figured out what it was that just didn't grab me when I played it. So let's get into it. So I decided that I would play with the tutorials, then as I went through, sort of got this text dump, if you like, and of course had to be original with my company name, so called it, well, Simudan, because what else was I going to call it? You know, you go through, pick your logo, everything like that, pretty standard stuff for this type of game, and yeah, the controls for this part weren't all that there, so I ended up sort of going through the company name a couple of times, because somehow I kept going back round to it. Who knows how, but there you go. And yeah, I did all this and I created a character, all pretty standard, and you know, nothing yet strikes me as something that would put me off the game. So with all this done, I then got through to this pick a lawnmower segment in which to test drive. Okay, well, yeah, I seem to remember this, okay. And each one of these lawnmowers, again, comes with another text dump. And these are starting to get annoying now because that's a lot to read. Especially when you're playing on your Xbox on a TV and you're not actually right next to you're not right next to the screen and it's a long way away. So, yeah, not ideal, but, you know, read through this text, tried to figure out what would be best for me, and in the end, I decided to go for the first out of the 3 possible lawnmowers, and which is this one. And the reason I did that was because I thought, well, maybe last time it's a monotony of doing the same thing over and over. So this time, I'll try a different system where I'm actually having to empty it. And then I got in and you get this sort of tutorial text dump, because apparently we can't learn how to play a game by playing. No, we have to be told through reading, because that is what all of us want to do when we play a game or get into a simulator. We want to read all of this information. I know there are some differences to that, but anyway, I started. I got onto the lawnmower, got more text to read about how to start it up, and even that wasn't actually overly helpful to begin with, because it was trying to figure out, even after this text was gotten rid of, I then had to still try and find out how to actually do it through actual controls. And finally I could actually start on the job of mowing on this test drive. So the process is pretty simple. You turn up to the grass, you turn your mower on, and you should have your cut height pre-selected, and depending on the job, depends on how high that should be cut, and that should tell you usually either in this case for a text dump or within some information somewhere that is easily missed that you have to read somewhere. And it explains through all this text on screen that by doing this you have to do 20% of this whole grass in order to complete this test ride, which is a bit odd because, hey, if I've tested it and I feel like, yeah, I know how this works now, maybe I should be allowed to well, leave and not complete the rest of it. But apparently no, it wants us to do 20%. So it's pretty simple. You run up and down and sort of all around the grass, and you try and get rid of every single blade that is over the height that you are cutting to. Quite simple, and you know, at this point I was starting to think, well, why is it that I'm not enjoying this but I enjoy Farm Simulator, where I go up and down a field, and sometimes that goes on forever and ever and ever, especially if you're doing a big field on Farm Sim. Well, I still couldn't put my finger on it. I still couldn't quite figure this out, but I don't enjoy this anywhere near as I do as much as I do Farm Sim. And you know, maybe it's just the theme. Maybe it was, well, it's mowing grass. But then again, Farm Simulator, you can mow grass. And I'm okay with that. But then there's more to it, isn't there? Because once you've mowed the grass, you know there's a next stage. And you know there's a next stage after that. And a next stage after that. And yeah, it was at this point that the game showed me Pro View. So you stop the car, or the mower even, and you can do this, and it shows you in white what is good to mow and what is already mowed. And this comes in remarkably helpful later, as you will see. So I kept going until the game had told me that I was now complete with the contract. So I drove my mower and took it over to the bags. Now I figured, well, a little bit over half full with the hopper. It says so above the rest of that little bit in the corner of my HUD. So therefore, surely I should be able to empty them. I'm sure these bags must be something to do with emptying it. Now, I got this as I got here, but nothing that told me how to empty it. Nothing. I tried a few different buttons. Pretty much every button I could push was pushed, and still absolutely nothing at all. I even disengaged the mower, thought maybe that was it. Still nothing. I even tried jumping off the mower, and still I couldn't find out how to empty the hopper, but I did find that, you know, you've got to fill fuel and you can change the blades, you know, adds a bit of depth. That's quite nice. You know, we all like a little bit of depth in our gameplay, right? Especially in our simulators, especially ones like this where you're running a business. But still couldn't figure out how to change the hoppers or to empty the hoppers. So in the end, I started the mower up and gave up. So after backing onto my trailer here, I then take a jump off eventually after figuring out how to close everything back down again, which I've now done a couple of times, so I should have figured that one out by now. But I still haven't. And I go leave location. And that's it. I've left location. No driving. No, you don't get to drive that out of the location. That is it. And now it's time to pick one to purchase. Well, I've only tested one, so I guess I'm going for that one. And now I've got to purchase a string trimmer, or here in the UK we'd call it a strimmer. But it doesn't really tell you the difference. One's petrol powered, one's battery powered. The battery powered one's more expensive, but what does it do? Well, what's the difference? If I go for the battery powered one, is that cheaper to run? Do I have to recharge it? How do you recharge it? None of this is explained, so I can't make an informed decision. And now I get to this screen where I pick my first job. So I pick my first job and set up the contract and head in to the to this contract to see what it's all about and what I get to do next. After an over lengthy little cutscene, and I'm not kidding, this is the cutscene of the garden. And it took me a little while to actually realise that in the bottom there it says confirm. And I could hit A to continue. Oh, and by the way, blink and you miss it, at the top of this screen, it tells you that you have to cut 99% of the grass to between 5 to 6 centimetres. If you miss this, I don't know if you can find it anywhere else. Let me know if you're into this game and you know whether you can actually find this anywhere else, this information. But as far as I'm aware, as far as I could tell, this is it. If I missed this, I would have no idea what the requirements of this job are. So, gave it a little while and finally found that button that continued, and I was told in the text dump again to go and do a ground check. Well, okay, I will go and do a ground check. What does that entail? You might ask. Well, I walk around the garden and I find some sticks and some garden tools and garden gnomes and all sorts. And I just pick them up so that I don't damage my equipment. What happens to them after this? Who knows? Maybe I keep them. Maybe my customer never gets them back. I don't know. Doesn't explain it. And I'll be honest, I wasn't going to play for long enough to find out by this point. So now it was time for me to start work and actually start mowing this fine grass they've given me to cut. And you know, this is when I started to realise the real core gameplay loop. I have to go up and down the garden. I need to cut all of the grass, being careful of all the trees and flowers and all the other pretty stuff all around me. And that's it. And this is it. This is the gameplay loop. Sure, there's things that need to be done, like beforehand. And, you know, there was still one more thing for me to try at this point. And that, of course, was the strimming. So I grabbed the strimmer and started using the professional view to figure out what parts actually needed to cut around the edge. And, well, I think this is actually more boring than going up and down on the old mower, if I'm honest. Yeah, you have to be really careful of the plants here, and it's delicate work, and this is going to take forever at this rate. Maybe I'm doing it wrong, maybe it's just me, but honestly I was really not enjoying this game at this point, which led me to start to wonder what it is exactly that doesn't click with me about this game. And then I thought about my childhood, and I thought about the fact that one of my main chores as a child, particularly in the summer, was cutting the grass. I had hay fever, undiagnosed then, diagnosed now, and you know, I'd come out of the job, massively sore throat, nose streaming, sometimes barely able to breathe, and I was told I was making it all up just to try and get out of the job. And to be honest, maybe I was laying it on a little thick to get out of the job. I was a child after all. But playing this game is just reminding me of that chore. And we had a big garden growing up, and this is a fairly sizable chunk garden. Yeah, fine, this time I had a lawn mower that I could ride on, which I didn't, and I wish I did as a kid, but it's not as fun when you're just watching that on a computer screen. So, long story short, this game is not to be played if you hate mowing the lawn, because guess what? You're mowing the lawn. And yeah, I know, gameplay loop here, very similar to Farming Simulator, except in Farming Simulator, you take the lawn mowing equipment, you mow the lawn with a nice tractor, then you drop the equipment off and you start with the next part, you know, and do your baling and so on and so forth, take that out to sell, and brilliant. There's a better gameplay loop there. There is very minimal gameplay loop here. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, give us a thumbs up down below, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. And I will see you in the next video.